Hey guys, what's going on? Alright, I wanted to go over this Jade Helms story that I found in the alternative media, and it slowly went its way into the mainstream media. So for those of you that don't know what the Jade Helms story is all about, it's a military drill that some people perceive to be a martial law drill. It's open to interpretation among different types of people. However, the alternative media continue to say that, hey, this is a martial law drill to be used against citizens, especially in southern states like Texas. So a lot of people flipped out, and then they started to email individuals in the mainstream media, and they probably got overwhelmed, and they had to say something about it. It was being talked about in town hall meetings, and these governors from Texas or these politicians from Texas had to say that, yeah, there could be some sort of shenanigans going on with this drill, right? We should be aware of what the government's doing, especially under the Obama administration. So people were voicing their concerns, and politicians were voicing them as well. So the question is, why is the mainstream media even covering this? If they think this is a wacko conspiracy theory, why give it airtime? And in my opinion, there are a few factors at hand. Number one, there's a government media complex. So if the government feels that there is some sort of wacko story that they want to make sure that people don't have the wrong perception of, and it's a large story, what they're going to do is they're going to use the media, right? Because they're well connected, and they're going to come out with these attacks against the alternative media. They're going to call them whack jobs. They're going to say that, hey, they live in their parents' basement, this and that. They're loners, whatever they're going to come out with. They're going to come out with this propaganda. And secondly, why would the media also go on the attack on this? In my opinion, what they're doing is that you have individuals working in a field where not many people can find jobs in. There are a limited amount of jobs in media, right? It's a tough economy as it is, but media, it's really tough to crack into. So if you're a mid-level journalist, right, if you go against the status quo, you're most likely going to be purged. You're not going to be in the media anymore. Here are a few examples. Glenn Beck and Cenk Uygur, or however you pronounce his name. Glenn Beck was on Fox, and he brought on all these individuals with theories out of the norm. For instance, if you look at the creature from Jekyll Island, that individual was on, and he talked about how the Federal Reserve was constructed, this and that, right? The ins and outs and the shenanigans with these bankers and how they wanted a Fed for their own interests, right? And then if you want to look at Cenk Uygur, this individual, first of all, had a job on MSNBC. The ratings went up, just like with Glenn Beck on Fox. However, Cenk Uygur was like way to the left, and then he got summoned by MSNBC producers saying that, hey, dude, you gotta, number one, stop attacking these pharmaceutical companies, and two, you gotta stop with this propaganda, this left-wing propaganda, ultra left-wing propaganda. Even though MSNBC is hard left, Cenk is really, really hard left, right? And he just went after the government, this and that, and then the MSNBC producers told him that, hey, you know what? You gotta calm down. You gotta take it down a notch. We have some guys in Washington telling us that. So the question is, who are these guys in Washington telling the media personnel to take it down a notch? That's really, really, really interesting. So, long story short, if you go against the mainstream media agenda or the government agenda, you're going to be purged. So, I feel that these individuals in the media are going to play ball and attack these alternative media theories, right? Regardless of how crazy it sounds for a martial law drill. That's not the point. The point of all of this is to expose the madness of government from the alternative media. I mean, they have done so time in and time out. If you look at the Patriot Act, the alternative media was small at that time. was up in arms saying that, you know what, this is a disaster, this is going to be used against the U.S. citizens, this and that. And the congressman did not have time even to read that bill. So, Patriot Act was passed, told us that, hey, this would be used against the jihadists, but instead it's being used now against the U.S. citizen. I mean, for instance, they're capital controlled now, part of the Patriot Act, right? So you go to a bank, take more than a few grand, the government's going to scrutinize you, or the banker's going to scrutinize you. Why would they do that, right? To prepare us for the new paradigm in the next few years, or it could be a decade or two. It's a slow transition. Just notice that they don't implement all these changes all at once. Because if they implemented these changes all at once, people would flip out, right? I've seen this in the corporate world as well. They try to sell it as that, hey, this, if they're implementing a new procedure or a new system or new operations, what they do is they sell it in a positive manner, right? They don't tell you the negatives, right? And what I don't like about this, whether it's the private sector or government, is that there isn't that much transparency then. And I'm all about transparency. And what the government is doing is they don't want everyone to flip out. They want to see how the public reacts. And if the public ignores it, they're going to continue to come more and more and more. They're going to slowly but steadily take your rights away. They're not going to do that right away. Like the debasement of the US dollar, they're not debasing the currency by 100% within 1 year. They debased it within a century, right? Where you had some periods of deflation, and then most of the time you've had inflation of 2%, whether or not you believe the government numbers. I'm using the phony government numbers. So, that being said, with this Jade Helms conspiracy, I don't care if the alternative media is telling the truth. What I do care about is that there are drills, in my opinion, happening all the time. And now the question is, what is the military going to do when SHTF occurs? We know what the Patriot Act, what's going on with that, right? People get harassed at airports, some people say molested at airports. It's ridiculous. This is not a third world country, but these are the Soviet-style tactics that our U.S. government is engaging in. So, that being said, when it comes to Jade Helms, you know what? I want to know what the government is thinking right now and what type of things they're going to enact when there are actually problems, right?